So this is actually the Korean style. If you go over to the Korean solo queue ladder, they don't roam. They actually focus on winning lane and snowballing from that situation.
Well, we are on to picks and bans. Almost said onto the Summoner's Rift. Not quite.
Almost.
A few minutes before we're there. Schalke on the blue side, Paris Saint-Germain on the red. And I'm actually going to have to change this out because I can't quite see the bans properly because of the shade from my shades.
So it's been Rumble and Twitch so far.
Okay.
Upsets Twitch has drawn a lot of attention from Schalke, so it's a good ban against him, I think.
Yeah, and it combines really well with Nosgaren's Tom Kench, which he picks, I think, 5 out of 6 times so
yes,
far.
He's had a lot of picks.
The combination of having Upset on a hypercarry has worked out well for them in the past. See why it's taken away.
Take away the Jace as well. Blanc, I think, is someone we haven't focused on too much, but is a very vital member of PSG. He's one of the few members that's performed consistently. However, he tends to just pick the Corki and then not really do much throughout the game.
Blanc hasn't stood out. I think that's the best way of really... He's been there, but hasn't stood out.
Out of all of PSG, he's the only one that's kind of maybe perhaps stood out a little bit.
Yeah, I think that kind of sums up PSG in a nutshell. They have not had a successful time in the Challenger Series, and Blanc is the only person that has kind of made plays. And when I say kind of made plays...
You're being generous.
Yeah.
Where do you think that Caitlyn falls now? Because if you've already banned 280 carries and you don't ban Caitlyn, Schalke pretty much have to pick up that Caitlyn.
I mean, this is Schalke's. This is Caitlyn first pick here.
But then you are giving away the combination of perhaps like Thresh and Zac.
Yeah, you're giving away Thresh and Zac. Wow, this is very...
Yeah, Thresh Kali. Like, there's a lot of options that you were giving away.
I think you still got Ashe, though. I think Upset will be confident enough in his lane against Nadia's Klai to actually pick the Ashe if the Caitlyn's picked up. So.
Okay, we had a problem with draft there, as you might have seen. Hopefully get that reset and on the way pretty soon. Again, there is that thought process between do I take Zac or Caitlyn. Both of them have seen 100% presence across games in 7-13. Zac incredibly powerful, despite a couple of nerfs to him since his sort of previous forms.
The nerfs tend to just reduce his pure damage output.
That wasn't the problem with Zac.
But I think I quite like that sort of nerfs. Because if you take away the reason that Zac is good, you take away what makes Zac Zac. It's like saying, oh, Warwick, how are we going to nerf him? Oh, we'll take away the suppression of infinite duress. And it's like, well, that's what makes Warwick Warwick.
It would make me pretty happy, though.
I like the what they've done with Zac. I think a good way of doing it is making Zac more utility focused, more supplementary to the team by reducing damage. I think that's a good way of phrasing it. Maybe they could have reduced range on stretching strikes. Like there's a point where it goes out of range, maybe, but apart from that.
We did just have a client crash from one of the Paris Saint-Germain players. So looking at it, I assume those are going to stick as the bans. Galio isn't too outlandish of a ban to me, and I assume that was banned in, but we should be back into the lobby pretty soon. Tournament round relatively quick to get through all of those checks and balances. Frozen Dawn, I want to talk a little bit about Schalke and just their gameplay in general. They've tended towards more late game style compositions, you know, Upset with those scaling AD carries. Do you think that works against PSG? Do you think they'll be challenged in any way?
I think it definitely works against PSG because PSG haven't exactly shown themselves to be sort of, you know, lane kingdom players or anything like that. Sure, they do have potential to win these lanes, but if they aren't winning them hard enough, being able to snowball them through in the mid game, which is precisely what we've seen from PSG or haven't seen from PSG in this context, then Schalke can just bring it to sort of 30 minutes, or a bit more, and then snowball the game from there.
I think that's a really important point to stress upon, because when you pick a hyper carry based composition, good way to stop that from happening is by getting pressure from laning phase into early game to mid macro rotations that sort of basically put pressure on the enemy team and they never actually get to that stage of the game. Haven't seen that from PSG, so picking a late game composition from Schalke seems like a fairly safe bet unless PSG have really bucked up their attitude and their play.
Well, this is the sort of time we saw them do that last split. So they won one game in week 3 and then they won the rest of their games last split.
Okay.
I'm not as confident in them as I was last split. Last split, they seem to have their heads in the right place. Paris Saint-Germain, this split, just don't seem to really have everything clicking in the same way. It's going to be the Galio ban, so once again, we come down to that. Is it a Zac? Is it a Caitlyn pick here for Schalke?
I think Zac. Oh, okay. I mean, literally as it's locked, but it gives you more options in the sense that it gives you the hard engage, but
you trade, right? This is a really sensible move from PSG. If they weren't going to be able to ban both of them, they wanted to make sure they at least had the option of one of them. And Schalke, I don't know if they read that. I think they assumed that one of them was going to be banned on the final ban of PSG. And actually, it's meant that PSG do get their hands on Caitlyn, which for Nadius and Klai, I think that's something they need. The safety of Caitlyn, but also the dominance of Caitlyn in that bot lane. She's very, very strong. But this is probably, in my opinion, one of the best responses to a Caitlyn lane is the Ashe.
Yeah, take the Ashe, perhaps take the Thresh here as well to get rid of that Caitlyn Thresh duo.
Yeah, definitely. I think you have to into the Caitlyn Thresh.
There's
it's
so many
oppressive.
power picks that left open that everybody's just
These
getting
are the
power
sorts of
picks
games I
left, right,
like
and center.
because power picks are there for a reason. There's a reason everyone bans them.
Yeah.
So when they get picked, it's like, yes, come on, let's get some action on. Looks like it's going to be the Tahm Kench is what we tend to see into Thresh and into the Ashe as well.
I like the Tahm Kench into Thresh and Ashe. I think, obviously, unless you're focusing Tahm Kench with those arrows and hooks, means that Caitlyn's pretty safe for the majority and good sometimes into Zac. You can have the awkward situation where if you devour... Okay, change things up. I think Braum's also decent into Ashe and stuff.
I prefer the Tahm Kench, in all honesty. I think it gives you better rotations early on with the Abyssal Voyage, and I think the Braum is a little bit easier to pick than the TK.
The counter engage from Braum is way better than Tahm Kench, though. So if you get the Zac engage and you manage to get off that Zac engage, the ability to then turn with Braum is much better than the ability to turn with Tahm Kench.
There is also the question as well that if PSG want to try and pick Corki in this first rotation, essentially blind picking mid lane, it's pretty safe. It also works far better with Braum than it does with the Tahm Kench, and it allows them to counter pick top, which means the Gragas is still flexing through the whole of the draft.
Yeah, and I like the Corki with the Caitlyn because it provides such, especially with zoning potential and disengage potential of the Gragas, the ability to siege towers with that particular set of 4 is very strong. You know, you can very quickly rip through those towers if you get the opportunity to get onto them.
Fiora and Orianna bans coming out thus far. Schalke might get rid of the Syndra here as well, or even get rid of the Corki to keep that away from Blanc. We saw him play it a lot last week. There's a few different options for them. Paris Saint-Germain, however, might continue to look up towards the top lane, get rid of that Camille.
Well, they're really focusing on Smitty J's potential to pick up anything that would do well into tanks or split push. May feel like they want to get Sartorius on a Shen. That might be an area where they want to get Sartorius. You know, it gives them a lot of protection for the Caitlyn as well. Takes that away from the engage with the Zac too, and you're getting rid of things that Shen is bad against. So potentially a Shen pick up here for PSG.
I don't think they pick it up first, though, because if they pick it up first, as Frozen Dawn said, we lose that flex from the Gragas, and you could just get a Gnar out of Schalke, and Smitty J's Gnar is pretty strong.
There's a lot of good picks left open. Kennen, Gnar, Gangplank even.
Renekton still,
yeah,
Jarvan.
still good.
And it looks to me, with the way the bans are going, that, I mean, essentially 3 split pushes and then 1 god tier blind pickable mid laner have been banned. And that seems to tell me that both compositions want to be running teamfight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
play-by-play, woo!
And I think Syndra is a pick that kind of functions in the similar kind of vein as Corki, but has a lot of blow-up potential.
That's Corki from Cadril to try and answer it. Just a strong poke, strong siege, strong engage from Schalke. There's not many points I look at them and say that's a weak composition at all. I mean, when you get the 3 most contested picks on a patch, it probably helps you out quite a bit.
The only thing this Schalke's comp currently is failing at is the very early stages of the laning phase. Corki's laning is pretty weak until he gets Triforce. Ashe and Thresh typically will lose lane to Caitlyn and Braum as well. And that means that Gragas, depending on whether he's top and jungle, will be able to look to pressure the map. But considering Gragas is going into a Jarvan, it's probably Gragas jungle.
So what do you pick in Gnar?
Nah, I wouldn't even mind Shen now. I know Shen's pretty weak against Jarvan early on, but whoa, okay.
That's really good.
Have
That's
PSG subbed in Dan? Is that what's happened here? He's just like,
I mean,
he saw that Jax was free in a game today and was just like, I really want to play Jax, please sub me in. So why is it really good for us? Tell me.
The nice thing about what PSG has done here is that Schalke has gone full committing to this team fight, even though they have sort of weakish laning phases. But the Jax from PSG provides 1 extra option of how to win a game, which is in this split push. Sure, their composition can still team fight well, but it gives them an extra option depending on how the game goes. If this Jax gets snowballing, you don't have to team fight the team fight.
And actually their 4 is pretty safe because they've got the disengage of Gragas and the disengage of Braum and the scatter the weak, which can kind of put things in their place as well.
And the trap line.
Exactly. So there's lots of ways to prevent engages here. And if Schalke don't pick their targets incredibly carefully, they could result in just losing shoot tons of stuff in the side lanes.
That was a lot better recovered than Medica.
Seriously, lots of stuff. I don't know, I can't remember what you guys are talking about, but
anyway,
let's do predictions.
A lot of stuff in the side
lanes.
lanes.
A lot of stuff in the side lanes. Let's do predictions quickly. Seems that people are erring on the side of PSG having a better composition here. However, we all said we thought the Schalke were the better team coming in. What are our predictions, starting with you, Frozen Dawn?
I think that PSG's comp isn't necessarily better than Schalke's, but Schalke's is certainly a lot easier to execute. It's all fully all-in, and they're a sort of stronger team overall that we've seen. So I think Schalke should be the
just a better
winners.
team. Yeah, so I'm going to go for Schalke as well.
Yeah,
it's very easy to play a dive comp as well. You see, all you have to do is shout "go, go, go," and the whole team just collapses.
Again, I want to disagree with you guys, just because I enjoy disagreeing with you, but I can't do it. Schalke are going to win. They've got Thresh, they've got Zac, they've got Ashe Arrow. They have just too much. I think, for this PSG lineup to deal with. So
if they stagger their engage and try and bait out some disengage, it makes it a lot easier to dive turrets as well. So
yeah,
no, it's true.
It's true.
Very
it's true.
true.
Yeah, so all of us
Philosophy.
going for Schalke. If they win, they are pushing towards that playoff spot. In fact, I think they might guarantee themselves a playoff spot if they win here. I will check during the initial moments of the game.
Schalke do guarantee themselves a playoff spot. I think they guarantee themselves a playoff spot even if they draw.
Maybe. So. It's going to be me and Frozen Dawn casting this action. Summoner's Rift. We are on to it as Schalke take on Paris Saint-Germain for our final series of the day. Frozen Dawn, I want to talk a little bit about matchups with you, mate. I want to talk about especially this jungle, because we so rarely see Zach. What are the intentions of these two junglers early on? Who is going to be the one pressuring the map? Where are they going to be going?
Well, you're right. It's quite rare to see double tank junglers now actually facing off to each other. Typically, you see Zach and then a carry picked into it, or just two carries. Both these junglers have a lot of options. They can essentially look at the same lanes across the board, because all lanes, other than Kadril's Corki, provide CC for each other. Getting this top lane ahead, though, for PSG is very important, because if Sartorius falls behind, he won't have the pressure on SmittyJ, and therefore SmittyJ can join into team fights, which is precisely what PSG don't want to be happening.
Minions have spawned.
But what did they do early on?
Oh.
That was my question, Frozen Dawn.
Well, they clear into level 3.
Okay.
And then look. Sure, so because they don't have that much pressure on each other, essentially they're both just going to have to be looking for clear, and then wherever the easiest gank comes up, they can look to try and force. We could see a little bit of cheese, for example, coming out from Kire. Maybe he's got an experienced Quint. He's going to do the Wraiths, Reds, Scuttle, gank top lane.
Okay.
I mean, I can't look at his runes, sadly, but those options come about. But both junglers are going to have to be looking to play essentially how the lanes go. Syndra's going to push Corki in early game. Corki can't really do anything about that because his trading's so weak, which gives Gragas a lot of movement around the mid side of the map. Bot lane's a little bit more contested, though, so I think how bot lane goes sort of depends whether or not Zach can actually pressure it.
Interesting not to see Upset and Norskeren give the Zach the super start that we have been seeing from especially North American teams, where he starts the Razorbeaks, you start the red. They just wanted to be in lane a little bit quicker here to try and face up against Nardius and Clyde. Clyde did actually take quite a bit of poke. Blunk trying to trade onto Kadril in the mid lane. We'll have a pause coming out, and I'm sure we'll get this sorted as soon as possible.
Yeah, so we see here the Gragas actually started Krugs. Well, no, sorry, not started Krugs. He's going for third camp Krugs. And at this point, he's definitely looking for a very early gank in the top lane. This could be a gank coming around about 245. And if this gank does go through and Jack's able to pick up an early kill, I mean, we're talking, quite a little bit further in advance. But if he is able to pick up this kill, that's going to lead to the snowballing of the Jacks. And that is most likely what Kira is going to look to try and do here.
Makes a lot of sense. If you can get Sartorius ahead, will he just be able to totally force SmittyJ out of that lane? Is it a pure dominance matchup when you get ahead, or is there any chance that SmittyJ can build a little bit tankier and just match into it?
Now into the Jax, pretty much nothing you can do if he is able to snowball onto you. Essentially, he's not necessarily able to dive you because SmittyJ can flag and drag out, but he's going to have so much trading potential from the early game. The turning factor for that is the fact that both tank junglers can look to gank this and try and change it, but once Jax is snowballing, it's going to be disastrous.
We are going to get back onto the Summoner's Rift. Scoundrel was frustrated, came in, sat down, ready for things to go. Sat in the corner eating his chocolate bar that we give him between games, drinking his bottle of water.
He needs the energy,
Has been a warm one here today, matched only by the intensity of the plays.
That's why my sunglasses are still on.
You can't lie to the audience like that.
Well, they don't know.
You can't lie to them like that.
There we go. Oh, Kire.
Kire does come up towards the top lane, as you said. Good prediction. SmittyJ, however.
He could just pull the trigger on this.
Yeah, interestingly, he decides totally not to pull the trigger. Instead, going down towards bottom lane, perhaps thinking that Upset and Norskeren will push that in. And he can look down there after getting his own blue.
Maybe it was just the case that SmittyJ hadn't started. Typically, Jarvan starts shield, so they can look to sort of just neutralize trades. And therefore, they won't have flag and drag to escape the early gank. But it's possible that Sartorius called out that SmittyJ actually started the flag and drag, and therefore the gank isn't really worth doing. I mean, he has gone the W. There was definitely a potential gank there, but clearly didn't go for it. Instead of preferring to farm up, bot lane is pushing as you suggested, so they can look to try and pressure the bot as we have another pause.
Perhaps giving some respect to momentum as well. That Zach, if he'd gone experienced Quint, could have been up there looking for a gank of his own. They didn't. I don't think they tracked him early on, as far as I saw.
Did Ashe and Thresh arrive late to the bot lane party?
Not especially so.
No, it was fine. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, play's going to come back. I keep moving my drinks off the desk.
So I was leaving mine down on the...
Yeah, that's a good idea. But the CS lead for Sartorius up towards the top side. Memento is there, waiting in the wings. Smitty J's pinged a ward here, and this is the power of Zach. Stretching strike across the wall. Is going to get the flash away from Sartorius. Tries to bring him back. Can't quite get it, and Schalke will be satisfied with that flash from the top lane.
It makes you wonder what had happened if Kira had actually gone for that early gank. Sartorius would never have had to burn his flash in that scenario. And it's not where you want to be as the Jax, because you are very gankable considering the combination of flag and drag, and then the Memento Zax's elastic slingshot range. Very easy to gank this top lane.
Kaime has been pinged out here, and you can see Norscarin immediately reacting, getting a ward in the tri-bush. We'll spot him at the Krugs as well. Kaime didn't use the Blast Cone to get across here, so can just body slam into Blast Cone if that's how he wants to escape the jungle of Schalke 04. Yeah. No real advantages taken from either team yet.
Now notice how in the top side Memento actually jumped over the Baron wall into the tri-bush, then put a ward in the tri-bush. Sartorius kind of smelling something could be up, decided to recall, but it is going to mean that both junglers end up just trading the Wraith.
Sartorius didn't burn his teleport either, so he still has that if later on he gets forced out once again. Didn't see how many of those Kadril got.
I think he got like all of them, if not
really?
all but one. Yeah, he did. Gragas just gets them all low with AoE, right? And then he just, Kadril just queued them.
That's a good ward from Kadril, and smart positioning. I think he had a ward there that's just timed out, so didn't know that was going on. Push in the bot lane for Nardius and Cly, as we talked about earlier on.
Okay, so we just noticed there actually a ping comes down on red side Wraith. That's because Sartorius found the tri-bush ward with his pink, and now he knows that Zach is in that side of the jungle, or at least was. This allows Kira to then look around the map, maybe try and pressure the bot side, predicting that Zach is going to be in the upper half of the map.
There's a lot of mind games going on. It's not, we haven't seen a huge impact of them as of yet, but it's interesting to see just how many levels and layers of complexity there are to these early game decisions. Blanc and Kadril deciding they don't need the complex life. It's just like, oh, we're far mid lane, we'll push it out. Kadril's actually gone back. He's gone Hexdrinker first as well, as expected, into a Syndra.
Yeah, into this matchup, you almost have to. Just to avoid being one-shot, that's essentially exactly what it does for you. Even while you're Valkyring away, Syndra can sort of layer her combo and then ult you. And you know, we kind of see the classic where he's Valkyring away as all of the spheres are following him, but he will survive with that. It delays his Triforce power spike, but it's completely worth doing.
Paris Saint-Germain, as a team, had a one-year plan to get to the LCS. That's what Yellowstar said in his original interviews when he was setting up this squad, when he brought in Pilot and Blanc and brought in Steve and then White Knight further on. And Spratel as well, of course, played for them last split. They were looking...
Schalke players, half of them.
Yeah, I know. It was a good matchup last split. They were looking for this, and now they're looking up towards the top lane. We're seeing this a lot more now, and there wasn't so much of a freeze from Upset and Norscarin in that bottom lane. So this is all PSG just saying we want this first tower, bringing 4 members up towards top side, setting up that trap line. However, Schalke have responded. We saw the stretching strike from Memento just pulling back at Paris Saint-Germain.
It's a new way to create tempo in a game. You know, typically we would see a while ago this whole lane swap thing where you'd completely hard swap the lanes, but now it's about pushing the lanes in. If you are the first one to do it, you're going to have a wave advantage. It doesn't matter, there's actually a fight in the top lane.
Memento goes in, stretching strike does land onto Nardius as well. There's a Cataclysm double flash from Paris Saint-Germain to get themselves out, and now Schalke have the tempo advantage.
Now, it was a good call from Schalke there. Both their jungler and top laner were 6, whereas the bot lane is still forced. They were able to look to force this play. Getting double flashes is going to put a lot of pressure onto Kai and Nardius, as they are relatively diveable considering how early in the game it is.
Kyrie's going for red here, and I feel perhaps he would have been better served going up towards that top lane to make sure Nardius and Kai were safe, but Memento instead deciding he wants to go mid. Great scatter the weak from Blanc, and the dodge of the stretching strike. That's why you import Koreans, my friends. Those mechanics from Blanc, able to dodge out everything.
Are you trying to say that Korea greater than EU?
Yes.
But Korea lost to LPL.
Did they actually? I didn't see the results.
Yeah.
I didn't see the results.
And
so
NA
actually,
beat EU.
Here is my logic.
Korea, like
here is my logic, right? That means NA is better than EU. EU beat LPL at MSI, beat WE, and then LPL beat LCK, right? So that makes NA the best region in the world. EU a second, China a third, and Korea actually the 4th best region in the world. And you can't fault that logic.
Now to go one step further,
here we
Perks
go.
is the best EU mid. Yes?
Yeah, so Perks is better than Faker.
Is the best Korean mid.
Yeah. And
there we go.
GA's in the middle, Bjergsen's at the top. So it goes Bjergsen, Perks, GA, Faker. Actually, I think you can rank anyone in the top 2 EU mids better, because the top 2 EU mids would beat LPL. It's like it's two divisions lower. Who would you count as your second best EU mid though? Caps. Caps did not have a good Rift Rivals. I think Febi's probably got a challenge there.
I think we'll have to wait and see.
Nuke Duck as well. Actually. Nuke Duck. Just as a pure mid laner.
Bjergsen is technically an EU. Right?
Yeah, so is Jensen. I mean,
yeah, this is true.
And Ryu, if you count where he was last.
Yes, sure.
That's how it works, right? Anyway, let's get back to this game. It's Sartorius and Smitty J facing up in this bottom lane. The lane swaps have been well and truly enacted. Nardius and Klein no flashes, so they just have to stand behind their tower. But Memento is on his way up. No flash for him, but Noskaven can always look for that engage. And Upset also has the arrow.
Lots of engage options coming out of Schalke's entire comp, not just in this top side of the map. And if they were to get this engaged, they could look to the first tower. Another reason they've put their bot lane top is because that's where Herald is. And if we look to the Dragon, it's Cloud Drake. So not all that important. Herald typically prioritized higher than Cloud Drake is.
Cadra's made his way up here as well. Klai has just hit 6. Kaire's here. And only half the damage on that tower for the time being. Schalke and Ulfir unable to crack open the fragile egg that has been Paris Saint-Germain's early game.
Schalke's early game hasn't necessarily been the greatest in the world either. As we mentioned, they do very well once they get to the latest stages of the game.
That tends to be when their team comp is built around that as well, because up until now we've seen a lot of Twitches, Cogmore, Upset has been playing these later game hyperscalers. And I'm not saying that Ashe doesn't scale well into late game, I'm just saying she tends to be utilized much better in the mid when you can still be making these picks with the ECA.
Yeah, that's certainly true. I mean, their composition here is classic Schalke in theory. You've got a hyper carry, you've got a support that relatively defends him, kind of build around him to an extent with the double team fighters, and then just 2 carries. And when we look at PSG's, they've gone for something slightly different. He can still match in the team fights, but it is relying a little bit more on Sartorius on his Jax to have some split push pressure to a point where he can push in the Jarvan, who, if Jarvan does TP to look for a fight, that's when Jax can try and take towers. And once he's fed enough, can maybe look to fight. Upset actually
onto Upset.
Very chunked.
If they hit that concussive blows a little bit quicker, perhaps they could have gone all in.
I wonder if Klai could have just pulled the ult instantly.
It's always a little bit of a risk. Another pause coming out. I assume it's just connection issues. We had that Paris Saint-Germain client DC as well, so it might be that.
Again,
How much is this benefiting PSG, though? Because we talked about the scaling from Jax. Jax has always been seen as this superb 3-item top laner who you really can't split push into. How much do PSG just say, yeah, I'm happy enough, You burnt off flashes in the bottom lane, haven't really been able to do too much with it. Sartorius is farming himself up. We're in a pretty good position all round.
Yeah, PSG won't be too sad about it. Of course, I mean, as you said, they haven't died because of the loss of flashes, anything like that. They are still looking to try and scale up with their comp. At the moment, though, it's about whoever can create tempo on the other, who can look to try and exploit the vision weaknesses of the opposing team, push in the lanes, just keep getting those sort of very slight but still important wave-by-wave advantages.
Well, with Scoundrel back, we're going to ask him how he feels this early game is going for Paris Saint-Germain.
I actually think that despite we're talking about Jax being so strong, split pushing in the late game with 3 items, you are looking at a composition that has the perfect tools to deal with split push. Remember, the one way to deal with split push effectively is engage, and hard engage at that. So many ways to hard engage. You've got the Ashe arrow, you've got the Zac jump, you've got the Jarvan, you've got so many ways to find and engage here. Even through that disengage, you could look to punish PSG if they commit to a full Jax split push strategy. Jax actually can function in teamfights, believe it or not. He doesn't want to, but he can. Like, he's probably one of the better split pushers to bring down and have an impact through a teleport, for instance. If you could jump to the backline, get a counter strike, and get onto the AD carry probably dies. So
it's true.
And it's a very good way, if you get a re-engage or a counter-engage in the Braum, Jax is a very good way to find a flank position in those situations. So loads of different ways you could formulate that these teams play out in the teamfight situations, but if you want to deal with a split pusher, I've always felt that hard engage is the best way of dealing with it. So.
But there's great disengage coming out from the PSG lineup. You've got Explosive Cask, you've got Glacial Fissure. I agree that hard engage is good into split push, but when you've got great disengage and you don't have huge burst potential. I mean, the Corki does have relatively good bursts, and the Jarvan, but if you're able to disengage the Jarvan as he jumps in with the Explosive Cask or the Glacial Fissure, you don't have that much burst onto the backline.
That's why you stagger your engage. You throw the Ashe arrow out, you move up as a unit that forces some disengage like the Gragas barrel, you don't commit too hard, and then suddenly, once that's down, then you use the Jarvan ultimate, for instance, and then follow up with the Zac ultimate. That you stagger your engagement. You don't commit everything in one go.
I think you do.
When you know that there is disengage there, and very good disengage at that. Again, it will be hard because of the Gragas Barrel and the Braum ultimate to find these fights, but they are possible.
But that comes down to the patience of the team. You know, as soon as you see your Jarvan ulting on top of the enemy team, everyone just sort of screams go, and everyone sort of fires all of their ultimates out. And it's at that moment where the team actually will hit their sort of the weakness, which is the casket will come out, or the cask even. I realize casket. It could be their casket in the end, I suppose. But the cask knocks them all out, and then it's all gone wrong. Whereas if Schalke have been practicing this style of composition, if they have been looking to figure out exactly how you can play around these multiple stages of engage, multi-layered engage, which is precisely what we're looking for here, and then they can win these team fights.
Well, we are back onto the Summoner's Rift once again. Apologies for the pause. Paris Saint-Germain do have an ever so slight lead, only about 200 gold or so in their favour. And their towers have taken a little bit more chip damage than perhaps they would like at this moment. Very even between these two teams. Both seem to just be waiting to hit their strong points, strong portions of the game. Sartorius jumps onto Smithy J, tries to get the Tiamat out. There's the Cataclysm in response. Smithy J so low. Here's Memento though, and he's going to root down Sartorius. Flash in and power, not enough. First blood Memento.
So Smithy J knew that he couldn't take this fight against the Jax, and knew that Sartorius would just fall for this. With the Zac coming straight up, picking up that kill. Not exactly what you want if you're the split push. Jax, you know that you have to look to try and pressure. This Jarvan, you know you want to be looking for these solo kills just so that you can begin to snowball your split push, but without knowledge of where the Zac is, that's not how you're going to do it.
Unfortunate for Sartorius. That's so close with that flash in power auto attack right at the end. Almost got first blood, but they might even lose first tower for this as well. Kyrie is on his way down to try and stop it. And will actually just jump in towards that bottom lane. Actually use this flash as well. Let's bounce, knocks him back. Memento trying to distract Kyrie from Smithy J, who is incredibly low. Doesn't have a flash of his own, and that's going to be the gloop form.
They're going to be able to kill
dives to Cinderhulk. Oh, the TP in, but Sartorius is here. This is bad for Smithy J. He doesn't have a way out, and in the end just leaves his Zac to die.
I sort of feel sorry for Sartorius there, not actually picking up the kill, no matter how hard he tried. But a nice recovery and an unforced error there from Memento. Not what I would expect to see in a scenario where you pretty much aren't pressured at all. You know, you can just walk up to the lane, try and take the tower, but if it goes wrong, if it's a risk, just, you know, just walk out.
I feel the original error was actually Smithy J's, because he stayed around and Memento distracted Kyrie using the Let's Bounce. If Smithy J hadn't been there, I don't think Memento's under threat from the kill.
Yeah, by committing resources into the bot lane, Schalke are taking a lot of damage on their mid tower and losing their bot tower to Sartorius.
This is what you want if you're a split pusher. First tower blood, all for your own 650 gold. Oh baby, he's going to the casino tonight with a payday like that. Sartorius now will be able to try and snowball away from Smithy J. Already a 20 CS lead. Perhaps this is where Paris Saint-Germain's hopes lie in this game against their fellow footballing club.
Absolutely. It's all about this Jax. He gets the Tiamat. He's able to split push. Once he starts racking up the components of Triforce, it's all about when he finishes it. But at this point of the game and forever onwards, he is going to be able to 1v1 the Jarvan. As Smithy J is going to have to play around this and have complete full respect of this Jax. Look instead to try and team fights, look to set them up and make sure that the wave's pushed before he does so. Otherwise, they're going to start losing all their structures.
Tower after tower, always a possibility when you've got a Jax on the enemy team. Rift Herald there as well for them. However, top side of the map is currently being controlled by Schalke 04. They have the push advantage in the Ashe and the Thresh. It's a difficulty for Nardius and Clyde to really respond to, although now they have their flashes of their own. Perhaps they can step a little bit more aggressively in that lane. Let's have a quick look at item spikes across the board here. Frozen Dawn, you've got a Morello Nomicon finished on towards Blanc. Sheen on Cadril, he's building up towards that Trinity Force we talked about. Blade of the Ruin King for upset, whereas Nardius has gone BF Sword into Zeal item alongside those Berserker Greaves.
Yeah, most important spike here, I think, is the Blanc hitting level 11 whilst having Morellos and Boots too. In this moment, Cinder is the most deadly, and this is when she can try and pressure onto the Corki. Corki, though, with the package, is looking to do the exact opposite, try and shove the lane out and then look to try and pressure elsewhere in the map in the minute the package is up.
Which is interesting because we talked about Cadril learning from Korea, and he was saying, oh, I want to play in the lane, I want to play in the lane. Now, instead, he's playing more around that map focus, more around the rotational play. And this might be a Rift Herald just going over to Schalke. Kyrie is on his way. He does have Smite as well. Blast cones across. Memento there. No flash on him, of course.
Yeah, but TP for Sartorius, and Smithy doesn't have it. So
here comes the arrow onto Kyrie. Let's bounce, knocks him back. Cadril comes in. That's a kill. As Gragas falls, Sartorius did not TP in, and that will be Rift Herald and a kill for Schalke 04.
PSG just didn't seem to be on the same page there. They knew that Sartorius had the TP pressure and this BJ did not. But Kire just going in essentially unforced. There was no need to dive in there without the backup from your team, resulting in what was essentially a free kill in a Herald that you were probably already losing anyway, but you certainly could have tried to make a play or team fight happen over that.
Yeah, but Sartorius would have lost farm in that bottom lane, and as a Jack split push,
you further away
you
from the
can't
Triforce.
lose farm. That's the big thing. Does mean that we will see Schalke have that Rift Herald for the next 4 minutes or so, can decide where to use it. Frozen Dawn, as a coach or former coach, where would be your optimal position right here? Where can you get the most out of Harriet, the Rift Herald?
By default, you always want to say mid lane. You know, if all tier 1s are open, you want to say mid lane because it opens up the most of the map compared to the side lanes. However, if one of the tier 1s are already down in any of the given side lanes, typically a tier 2 tower has more value than even tier 1 mid because you've pushed so far in that you can then look to even threaten inhibs, such, you know, if a fight goes your way, things like this. So we could see the Herald coming into the bot side of the map, or perhaps just for this tier 1 mid. Both options are viable.
And to see which one Schalke decide to use. Gold has evened up between the two, and at the moment, across the board, you can't really see any massive disparities. Paris Saint-Germain still probably content with this early game, although not too happy with the way they played that last fight. Blanc has to flash. This is... Oh, there's the explosive cast as well. This is something we do tend to see from PSG. Their lack of vision sometimes can cost them dearly, and they have no vision at all on the bottom side of the map at all. If you divided the map in half down that middle lane, literally not a single ward for Paris Saint-Germain down there.
That is precisely what they're doing here, and Schalke are responding to the way that PSG are playing across the map by putting Herald in the mid lane, trying to force this tower. As you can see, it instantly brings Kire and Kalai back down to this mid lane to try and defend it, but it's too late. Tier 1 mid tower is going to go.
Schalke will secure that tower. This is something they were known so much for in Spring Split. They had an average of 5 towers to every 1 the enemy team took. Giants actually have double that record this split. They are 10-1 in terms of towers to towers lost across games. Schalke, macro play was very clean last split. This split hasn't looked quite as good. Have been challenged a little bit more. And next week they face off against Giants as well, which is an absolutely monumental game for both teams. Schalke trying to prove that they can still challenge Giants, trying to prove that they are now the champions of the European Challenger Series, although there comes a curse with that first place spot as well, and with the undefeated title.
Yeah, a lot to prove for both teams, but specifically Schalke as well. You know, they've formerly LCS, relegated to Challenger Series, had the perfect split. Kind of failed in the finals, going 3-1, I believe, or losing 3-1. And then this split just hasn't lived up to the expectations they've set for themselves and other people have set for them. But it's still, as we said, turn around a bull, you know, it's week 4. Winning this 2-0.
Turn around a bull.
Turned around, I know, I was like, I don't know how to put that word.
Flash away from Smitty down towards the bottom line.
Well,
it's still redeemable, isn't it?
Redeemable, that's the one. That's the nugget. Thanks for that.
It's 5,000 gold, please.
Oh, yeah,
500
sure.
gold, I want to say.
500
Is it 500 gold for a nugget in Pokemon? I'm sure production
what?
will find out for me. It's 500. Is it 5,000? 5,000. Yeah. 5K. Buy ponies in your back pocket, mate. Oh, cool, blimey, that sounds great. 5,000 doubloons, my good man. Sartorius will be happy.
I don't even.
Happy as someone with 5,000 doubloons, having burnt that flash out. Blanc is caught in the mid lane, though, and once again, Schalke 04 and this Zac pick, 100% kill participation, has been there for the towers as well. There's just so much threat that comes with a Zac.
Absolutely, the engage range, especially onto mid lane, although it's the shortest lane, you can almost get to the back of it. Most mid laners just don't expect it coming, especially when you have your cleanse up as well as mid lane. You typically feel very safe. But Kato able to pour out all of the damage with the Triforce as well. And that was just a free kill going to Blanc. Almost more importantly was that the Sartorius called his TP in, but didn't gain anything from it. He just insta-cancelled it. Now he's not going to have that pressure.
And because they lose Blanc in the mid lane, they have to bring Caitlyn down, which allows Upset and Norskeren to get a free top lane tower. All of those tier 1s are now down. Schalke 04 can start to push their vision line up, use this 2,000 gold lead, and just pressure PSG out of the game. And this is something we've seen from PSG time and time again. They just start to lose at this point, slowly, bit by bit, the enemy team just makes better decisions, better macro play, and outplays them across Summoner's Rift.
It's very challenging when all three of your tier 1s are down to try and get your opponent's tier 1s, because you are playing very defensively. Your line of defense is now the tier 2s, and every step forward feels like you're stepping into enemy territory. It's much easier for them to walk up. They have a lot more routes they can get wards into your jungle with. And as we've seen from Schalke so far, they do have sufficient pick comp. You know, you have Ash Arrow from max range engage, kind of like the double lift that we saw from TSF popping these arrows from across the map consistently. Upset, you know, was ranked 1 on the ladder not so long ago. No doubt he can try and match double lift's ult potential. And then the rest of the team as well, just able to utilize very well with the pick comp.
Schalke win this, they do secure themselves that second spot, and I believe they secure themselves a playoff spot as well. I'm just running down my list. They do. They get themselves a playoff spot if they go 2-0 today. So not guaranteed a high seed. Giants, the only team who have got that first spot. Baron at 21 minutes here for Schalke. Kyrie looking for the steal. Can he make the big play? There's the arrow, going to jump across the wall. Kyrie jumps in, he smites it away. Schalke with the early smite memento. The first misplay he's made today. The play back onto Blanc though. There's the hook as well. Blanc not going to survive as Cadre chases him down. And although PSG got the Baron, Schalke get the fight afterwards. Only 3 members of Paris Saint-Germain survive, but Sartorius doing Dan things in the mid lane, gets himself a tower and looks to escape down towards the bottom side.
Nothing more heartbreaking than that. You have perfect vision, you know where they are, you know you get it down to 3k, and all you have to do is stun Kirei, but Upset pulls his ult too early. Kirei wears the stun off and then just jumps in, steals the Baron, and now you have to deal with the Sartorius, who has flash up. His TP is about 30 seconds off, and he has Baron buff.
As much as it's a minor thing as well, Memento had a level advantage in that. 1 level up.
And your whole team flames you now.
Well,
I mean, that's
well,
it.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Hopefully Schalke have that mental fortitude.
Oh, here we go. See, the stun
have a look
comes
at
out.
this.
The stun finishes. It's a 1.5k, and he just flashes the wall. It was dropped about 190 there, 200.
Wasn't the best smite from Memento. Perhaps a little bit of a panic when they realized they weren't quite able to lock him down. Schalke get a couple of kills off the back of it. Would have really liked to get Nardius or Sartorius on top of that. Sartorius especially because of the threat now of a Baron buff split push Jax.
Because Sartorius was able to take the mid tower in response, so I mean PSG most certainly happy with this. They only have Cloud Drake from the point of view of dragons, but their composition most certainly can siege, especially because we know how good the Caitlyn traps are. And all they have to do is wait it out whilst Sartorius tries to get a bit of pressure in these side lanes.
And we were talking about the ability to take tier 1 towers because you're so far pushed back. Well, they've now got bot tier tower, they've got mid tier tower, and they're looking for top tier tower as well.
They've been gifted to you now. I mean,
exactly.
Usually when you have 3 tier 1s down, you don't get Baron and then use that to take the opponent's 3 tier 1s, but that's exactly what Sartorius is doing. I'm pretty sure he's taken all the tier 1s by himself. Is that? Yep. Yeah, okay, so this guy is doing work. Despite the fact that he's even in CS and his kill KDA essentially isn't looking that glorious, he's nonetheless.
I bet if you look at his gold though,
back.
he's probably actually ahead of Smithy J in terms of gold right now. Maybe, yep, about 1,000 or so. 800, take that every day. Memento jumps in, knocked back with the Shadow of the Week. There's the stun landing all the way onto the backline. The stretching strike as well. Let's bounce, he says, knocks them back. Brought Kyrie and Cly into the backline. Sartorius TP'd in as well, that's 2. Here's Smitty J. Nardius takes a chunk. Cataclysm, 90 caliber net gets him away for the time being. Sartorius caught in the midst of Schalke can't leap strike away. And only 2 members of Paris Saint-Germain survive.
So Schalke just able to pull the trigger with a superior engage, and PSG just did not have the tools to disengage correctly utilized.
It's the composition though. You've given up a Zac, you've given up an Ashe, you've given up a Jarvan. You are going to get engaged on time after time. No cleanse for Blanc. This could be an inhibitor tower as well, and Schalke no fear, only 2 minutes after losing a Baron, having it stolen away from them, are just going to push straight into the base of Paris Saint-Germain and say, we'll take that inhibitor today. Thank you very much. They don't quite get it. The inhib survives, but the hook onto Blanc. It's not going to survive for long. Upset does get taken out as PSG look for the re-engage. Nardius there. Infinity Edge and Static Shift. Memento jumps away. Kyrie no flash. Cadril gonna be able to Valkyrie away, and Norscarin realizes that someone has to die. Some sacrifice to the gods that are Paris Saint-Germain. They save their inhibitor through some weird force of will.
This game has been so crazy. I don't know a better word for it. You know, we've seen Schalke have complete control, throw a Baron. Paris Saint-Germain there, throwing with Baron. to return to leave an inhib on one auto attack left.
Well, it's a football match. You have throw-ins in that, don't you?
Yeah,
so
throw-ins.
Just practicing their
It's like
soccer
a penalty
skills.
shootout. You know, the pressure, the tension, to and fro, where one person takes a kick, the other team takes the kick.
Kadril, unable to get that final auto attack down on the inhibitor as well. It's like, it's 3-3, you miss a kick, and then you see perhaps if Paris Saint-Germain can answer with their final penalty. Would have been apt if the scoreline had been 7-1.
As someone who's British, penalty shootouts are always a tragedy. I don't think we've ever. I don't know when was the last time we did well in the penalty shootout.
I don't think we've actually ever won a penalty shootout in international play, but let's not get into that. Paris Saint-Germain, French, Schalke 04, German. They both know what it feels like to win in football.
That's true.
The Germans especially so. Schalke are still ahead, 3,000 gold ahead in this game. They have 5 towers to 3. They have that mid lane inhibitor just sitting open, sitting waiting for that final embrace of an auto attack. They haven't quite been able to crack it yet. Let's have another look at this last fight.
Yeah, it's just the tanks for PSG are not tanky enough into the double carry combo coming out from Upset and Kadril. And you compare that to what Memento and Noskeren were doing in that fight. It was essentially just staying back with their carries to completely keep them safe. And Kire just not quite there with the tankiness at this point. He's going to get there eventually, most certainly, but no more so than Memento will. In the end, just a misplay from PSG, not respecting the engage that Schalke put out.
Can Sartorius still split push? Because we talked in picks and bans about how they've got this team fight plus split push composition. Now, Sartorius hasn't really shown up in team fights yet. He got there and then died straight away in the last one. Is he still in a position now where he can split push into the Schalke team, or does he always need to be with the rest of the PSG lineup? As the arrow comes out, hits in, Memento jumps in once again. Kadril with the flank, the hook onto Kyrie. He's going to get taken out as well. 2 kills, Schalke, 11 kills to 3 in their favor.
PSG there did not need to push up for this tier 2 tower. Instead, if they'd sat back on their inhibitor and given time for Sartorius to come down and defend with them, it would never have happened like this. But instead, they walked up 5v4. No wonder that Schalke pulled the trigger there.
I really want Schalke to back away and be like, we're just taking inhibitor towers for the time being, okay? We don't need inhibs, we just want the towers.
Ultimate
we'll go up to top.
You know, full CLG
Paint it by numbers, they will get that mid lane inhibitor as well as the top lane one. Sartorius actually did eventually manage to back away, but with Baron up in 40 seconds, Dragon in 30, you have to think that this is Schalke's game to lose.
Absolutely, Schalke just need to recall here if they prefer, get the wards down, get a nice back off, and then set yourselves up for Baron or Dragon. I'm not sure which the Drake was, I didn't quite catch it. I'm sure we'll find out in about 15 seconds or so. If it's anything of value, I'm sure they'll set up for that instead of the Baron because it's easier to take. But
they can
Baron
do a very quick Baron as well, though.
Well, double carry comp, and you have the tanks still with the front line.
And the Demacian standard for the extra attack speed.
Yeah. And if anyone walks up, you have Noskeren there on Thresh just to try and zone with the box. Jarvan can do the same with Cataclysm.
It's a mountain. It's a mountain, Drake.
I think it depends how, for Schalke here, which call you go for depends how concerned you are as to where PSG is regarding Baron.
Yeah.
So if PSG is around Baron, you don't want to be moving anyone to the mountain side of the map. But if there's no one at Baron at all, then you know that you can look to do it because it's essentially free at that point.
So they use the Hawkshot to try and get some vision around it, so they can see perhaps where Paris Saint-Germain are. Sartorius has been split pushing in that bottom lane, pushing against the super minions. That's something he can do because he's relatively strong. Mid lane supers are pushing in slowly. And Schalke 04 haven't quite pulled the trigger yet, but they can just wait for these super waves to slowly eke their way towards the base.
Yeah, they can be patient, just need to push in this mid wave, whereas they're going to walk down, it will get them some vision. That's most likely when we'll see Schalke look to walk up to the Baron as this mid wave goes down. It does have a super minion in it, as you said. 3J looking as well to push that lane, and the trigger is going to be pulled on the Baron.
Do Schalke need to kind of do a bait Baron first and get Sartorius' TP out, so that then they can go for a full Baron afterwards? Or can they just
go for a team fight?
They are going to jump straight onto the backline. Clyde there, he's all by himself. The stretching strike hits onto Nardius. Clyde's dead. Nardius gets hooked, immediately QSS's. Flash follows. Kadril jumping in. Nardius with the heal, trying to get himself away, but Memento with the chase potential is huge. Let's bounce back to the team. Kyrie gets a 5-man stun, but it doesn't matter at all. A double kill for Kadril. Schalke 04 just devastating this Paris Saint-Germain lineup. Sartorius behind them, trying to distract the next minion wave to stop Schalke just winning the game.
And Schalke with such good execution on the Baron that they all knew when to peel off at the exact right moment. The full team on the same page.
It's better than the last Baron they went for.
Most certainly, I mean, in a sense, it was it was similar. It was what they wanted the last Baron to be, right? But instead, they just weren't quite as well coordinated as we wanted. And Schalke going to be able to pick up this free Baron, trade it over for Mountain Drake, so technically not free. but I think it's a trade you're very happy to take. You know,
I'll take that
Baron
trade
for Mountain.
Smitty does actually still have TP, so he could back TP in and then try and stop this this Mountain Drake going down. But I don't think they really care, because they can just 5-man stack top now. They can just literally just stack a wave and say, okay, you have to deal with Memento, you have to deal with the Arrow, you have to deal with Norscarin with Flash Hook, you have to deal with Smitty J with the Cataclysm.
Yep.
I don't think you can deal with that. We'll just go all in.
I mean, Smitty J might as well push bot lane because he has Baron. He can like try and pressure the Jacks out, keep the Jacks there so they both TP.
Wait, he's TP top.
Never mind. They're going for the 5-man stack.
I like this from Schalke 04.
Yep,
I like the
aggressive.
aggression in this. It's just saying we are going to win the game now unless you somehow invent a new item that gives you twice as much damage as you should have. That's the only way that Paris Saint-Germain are able to come back from this. And this is what we expected to see. We expected to see Schalke taking an advantage in the mid-game and snowballing away from Paris Saint-Germain.
Completely, and you don't even need to look to the side waves at the moment because they know that the super minions are pushing in. The double carry comp from Schalke here is going to be able to take this tower down with relative ease, so long as they account for the traps. That is the big concern when playing into a Caitlyn, is of course is these traps and how they prevent you setting up any kind of engage. So both carries can just keep tapping away as the waves come in.
The true third carry is that cannon minion just there. Like, guys, I can do this. I will slowly eke away at that tower. It's going to go down. Actually took a static shiv shot to the face there.
Nice.
It's not too comfortable.
Smitty
J is going to push onto Sartorius here. Does have TP flash.
Smitty J here wants to try and pick up either mid or bot just to try and look to pressure the Nexus towers. They need a little bit of time though. They don't want to push the waves too fast, otherwise they're going to connect with the Nexus towers before your wave top connects, and this will give time for PSG to clear mid and then go and clear top.
Yeah, they're going to continue just to force forward. Smitty J there, giving the Baron buff up. Memento can set 2 walls away and still jump all the way to the back line. The stretching strike on them as well. Let's brings Syndra back. That's a dead Blanc. Just wipe the slate clean, and that is exactly what's going to happen to PSG as well. A double kill for Kadril, an ace for Schalke 04, and once again we see them go 1-0 up over Paris Saint-Germain.
Other than a tiny glimmer of false hope there that Kire gave his team by the Baron steal, that was a beautifully clean game, well executed from Schalke on all measures, not only in the laning phase, but also when it came down to the team fights and with their execution across the macro.